Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Jen Moonen.
And I'm Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And you're listening to episode 219. And this episode, we've got a job to do. Well, it's more of a contract we need to fulfill, and it's kind of hard to explain. So why don't you just take a ride with us? Because we are talking about the game Skate Story, a very fun surprise indie hit from Devolver Digital that was released at the end of 2025. And to join us in that conversation is the name on the marquee as far as production goes, Sam Eng. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's me. I'm the name on the marquee.
Yeah, you're on the box.
Oh, I'm sorry, by Sam Eng.
That's right.
Yes.
I made the game.
Hell yeah, put your name on it, damn it. It's very cool. Solo dev.
Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out, of course, to Stephanie over at Wonderville for connecting us. She was grilling us about the kinds of devs we like in games. I was like, oh, well, I'm really into Skate Story. She's like, oh, I know Sam. Do you want to talk to him? And I was like, we'd love that. She's the best. She's just
of course.
I love it over there. So we're grateful, and so shout out to her for making this happen. But Sam, I have to tell you that this is a game that was so not on my radar because I like Tony Hawk, but I am definitely very bad at Tony Hawk. Mm-hmm. So I basically, through that, have just like written off all skateboarding games, even though they're not created equal. But then I had a friend share one of the soundtracks with me, and I was listening to music and vibing and went, all right, I got to play this thing. And so I played it and then binged it over like 3 or 4 days. I became obsessed. You easily made one of my favorite games of that year. And I guess to start, what I wanted to ask, this is a game that is quite abstract and mixes a few different things together and is not what you would consider a traditional skateboarding game, though it has things in those games. Mm-hmm. Where did this idea come from? Do you have like a long history of loving skateboarding games and wanting to make your own, or did this kind of evolve from somewhere else?
Well, Tony Hawk was my first PlayStation game. So
hell yeah.
I guess I do have a long history of loving skateboarding games. But this was, that was pretty much the only skateboarding game that I played.
If you had to play one.
And I tried to skate when I was a kid, but it was like way too hard.
Yeah.
And I was just like, kind of just gave up. So I'm not like super duper duper into skateboarding games.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of video games, but I fell in love with skateboarding actually again when I was an adult, when I was in my 20s. And I was just like, wow, actually, skateboarding is awesome. Eventually, I was like, all right, I want to make a skateboarding game.
I love that it's born out of this like rediscovery of skateboarding and then kind of translated into the game you wanted to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, too, because there has been talk these days, certainly in indie spaces, of in generations past, game developers talking about they were inspired to make a game because of experiences they had in life. The Shigeru Miyamoto talking about wanting to make Zelda because of memories of exploring the woods and, what have you in his youth. And then nowadays we all talk about the games we played in our youth. That's what inspired us to make the games we made. But it's kind of funny that you sort of came out the other side of skateboarding. Games are fun, but it's the actual activity itself. And was it important to you to bring a feeling of what you discovered while skateboarding into the game itself? There's such a sense of, despite its abstract nature, a sense of character to Skate Story itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult to make a skateboarding game without confronting the skateboarding game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yeah.
And that actually introduced a lot of kids, me included, to skateboarding, right?
Yeah.
However, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is not an accurate representation, nor is it trying to be, of skateboarding.
No.
Yeah.
So when I picked up a skateboard when I was a kid, it was just like, this is not what I expected at all.
No.
I can't even stand on this thing. But the thing is like, I think I got quickly frustrated. But then when I picked it back up and I found like a love for it, sort of for what it truly is, like the difficult sport that it truly is, I felt like, oh, well, I wanted to share what I saw in it. That isn't just the arcade action of Tony Hawk that drew me to it, but there's still this other lasting power in the realism of it.
And I would also say that sort of this is my interpretation on things as far as skateboarding goes, where Tony Hawk Pro Skater is very much a West Coast kind of skateboarding game where the kind of traversal that happens is more boardwalk and beach, and it's a lot more skate park. the skateboarding that I think of growing up in New Jersey and living in New York and the New York area my whole life is a lot more just getting around places and traversal itself. I think of the parking lot of my college and how often everyone is just trying to get an ollie correct.
Hmm.
It's that thing I always love that dichotomy of gaming where an ollie is like one of the most basic things you have to do to get anywhere in a skating game. And actually doing one on a skateboard is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it takes a long time to learn how to do that in real life.
And I imagine that fed that same frustration where you're like, I just have to hit X to do this. Why is this? Ugh! I
Yeah.
keep falling and I get the front up and not the back at the front. Look, the skateboard I had when I was a kid, it was an Alpine style, so it was only bent up on one side. Getting any of that correct was right out the window. I was just trying to
Very
balance.
difficult.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to ask about when it comes to Skate Story specifically is I called this a capital V vibes game, right? Like because it's abstract, because the music is so good and so diverse, there is an aura to it. It feels like getting the mood right was just as important as then having a narrative.
Hmm.
Was that the goal from the beginning? Because the art also is, the actual design of the characters and the world is very unique. It's unlike anything I've seen in any other game, but does definitely play homage to other generations of games and stuff. Did you set out to have a clear narrative in the beginning, or did you kind of follow the vibe of what you developed and then the story came later?
Yeah, I always wanted it to be like a adventure game. So I came up with the name Skate Story almost as one of the first things because I knew that I wanted people to know just from looking at the game name that, oh, this is like an adventure game. It's not a trick attack. It's not a score attack game.
Yeah.
It's meant as an adventure where you're skating through something. I really love, yeah, like vibes and the narrative and putting all that together. The original log line for this game was it's Tony Hawk's Dark Souls journey. So that's three games that were sort of the tent poles of like Tony Hawk's a
Mhm.
skateboarding, Dark Souls in terms of like vibe and sort of a darker, sort of mysterious and atmospheric, difficult, also kind of loops into skateboarding, and then Journey in terms of like sort of the indie, artistic, moving forward, easy to flow, that kind of thing. So trying to put all those things together. It was a quick way for me to just know what I was aiming for.
I mean, the graphical style is a funny unique. It's got a collage feel to it. I almost first looking at it, I kind of felt like this is Res in HD, but done for a punk scene, where there is strong, almost
Okay.
hyper polygonal ideas. Like it's clean, but it is truly chunky in what it shows, but also aspects and pieces that are pulled in and objects that don't necessarily have to jive with each other, and in doing so create the collage and the feeling of it. Was there a certain like I want it to feel like this is something you were chasing, or is it kind of a what goes here? I don't know, a pigeon.
I think it's both. I think there's various places where it's like, what goes here? Yeah, I guess a pigeon. I think that actually is very accurate. That I was like, what goes into the cafe? A pigeon. So you nailed that one.
Nice.
But generally, aesthetically, I knew what I wanted, and it's hard to like completely get what's in your mind on screen, especially when you have to, grapple with the computer and
Oh yeah.
how shaders work and textures and stuff. So a lot of it is me playing with the tools and then moving towards the thing that I want, and then sort of like an internal barometer that's like, okay, well, this is closer or this is not as close, and then just like constantly just digging towards that thing, that peak that I wanted of where the aesthetic I wanted to bring it to.
Well, one of the difficulties that Matt and I have found in interviewing a lot of indie devs
Hmm.
is in chasing your vision, in crafting and creating, even accounting for everything in scope creep. It can be so difficult to make that decision. This is ready. I need to walk away from this. This is never going to be perfect. It's good, or whatever it is. And as a much smaller endeavor, as a solo dev, where do you give yourself those kind of guardrails and those checks in the process?
Oh well, I think I'm I think I'm pretty good at making something that I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm pretty bad at coming back to something and being like, now this really sucks now. So
You get it done, you move on.
yeah. The game took me a long time to actually finish. I thought it would only take me 2 years. And then I signed with the publisher, and then I delayed another year. And then with the publisher, I was like, well, I'm really trying to get it out. And they were like, well, you're not going to come out this year, right? I was like, no. So then delayed it another year. And then I thought it would come out the next year. And then I had to delay it yet another year. So in total, it was a 6 year development cycle, delayed 3 times.
Mm.
Yeah, so it took a long, long time. I think a lot of it was just like, well, if it's not good enough, I couldn't release it. And there were just like
Mhm.
core things of just like you put it in front of somebody, and then I'd be like, well, this part just doesn't make sense, or this part's not fun, and it needs to make sense and be fun, right? So although I, like many other developers, have perfectionist tendencies, I also err on the side of just like, oh, this is pretty good. I like what I make, so I just need to freaking put it out. There's a lot of labor that comes into actually putting something out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the process like working with Devolver Digital, with them as publisher for Skate Story?
I mean, it's pretty good. They were very loose with me. My producer, Juan, he was like kind of a champion for the game. He really liked it. And I pretty much only worked with him on production. So we would just check in like at the beginning, it was like once a month, send him a build, talk about stuff. He would help me make all the milestones and like all the scheduling and like help me keep track of tasks and stuff. In the last 2 years of development, we're meeting more frequently, like once a week, once every couple days. Yeah, he was just helping me just keep track of everything. He was very open to anything. Like working with Devolver was great for me because they didn't tell me what to do at all. They just kind of supported me. That was one of the big reasons why I vibed with them when I was looking
Mm-hmm.
for a
Mhm.
publisher, because they were like, yeah, we trust the developer 100%. So just make the game you want. And they always had feedback, but they were like, well, that's what I think. So, but you don't have to do this.
Well, Matt and I are both big fans of a lot of games published by Devolver Digital,
Yeah,
so I
Yeah.
think that policy,
it's working for them.
it's working
Yeah.
for them. Why stop?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always great to hear that. I do want to pivot back to the aesthetic for a second
Uh-huh.
because, as we mentioned, we're all New Yorkers. And I expected an abstract story. I expected demons and moon eating. They set that standard very early in the game. But what I wasn't expecting was a love letter to New York between the train pass and the different areas. Obviously, we're all from New York and live in New York. Was that always the intent also, is that the areas and the vibes would kind of be a love letter to New York, or did that just come out naturally because that's what you know, that's where you're from?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was natural and yeah, it made sense. Like street skating is large in New York. It's like quite a
Yeah.
big, great city to skate in. It just made so much sense. It wouldn't make sense for me to make a San Francisco game. So yeah, I mean, I really like the city. I grew up here. I've traveled a lot, but like every time I travel, I'm just like, well, could I imagine living here? And it's always just like, not really. Like, it always feels smaller than New York. So it's like, if I'm already here, why change? So I do really like the city. And, there's so much media with New York. I kind of see New York as like a public domain IP almost, or
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
kinda.
or it's just like, yeah, you can just use it. It's like an IP that everyone knows. So I wanted to try to leverage this IP in this way, in the way that I grew up here, and try to show sort of my vision of it. Because I think it's also just such a dense and I mean, a million things can be said about the city.
Oh, yeah.
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 And any amount of traversal going about, whether it's New York City or anywhere
Yeah.
else, even small towns, how you view the space is how your story goes and how you go about it. I don't skateboard that much these days, but I do cycle a fair amount. I do ride my bike. The same area will look different on my bike than it will walking around,
Hmm.
than it will in a car or anything else. And New York City, like a lot of cities, feels like a lot of villages in a trench coat. So moving from one neighborhood to the next and where that changes for you and where you decide one neighborhood ends and another begins may disagree with somebody, but it has to do with your experience and it has to do with what you see. And in a game that is about momentum, that is about movement, that is about a little bit of flash and class on top of it as well, what you show and how you see it is skewed a certain way. And it is a very cool way to see.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I mean, a lot of skaters they have like skater vision when you're just like
Mm-hmm.
walking around. You're like, oh, you see this like stair set, or you see like this little curve, or like this thing. Like, oh, maybe I could like jump over this, or trick this, or do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that happens.
You see the world through the vision of how you can interact with it.
Right.
So a silly thing that I got good at doing in college was juggling.
Hmm.
And going into a grocery store and realizing what you can and cannot juggle in there, I'm much better about my impulse control these days now that
Like,
I'm older.
whoa, so many juggling objects.
There's so many. Look, I was asked to get out of the utensil aisle because did you know potato mashers juggle exactly like juggling clubs? They're weighted the same way. So if you need
That's
to
funny.
in a pinch,
Yeah.
potato mashers. I'm just saying.
Incredible.
But yeah, so it's that same thing of like, yeah, you kind of get a vision of you start getting the yellow paint or the little indicators of, ooh, I should try that. Ooh, can I do
Yeah.
that? And it's those ways that this all kind of intermingles.
Yeah. Before we move on from aesthetics, one other thing. So the skater in this game that you play as is made of glass and shatters very easily. Developers have done over the years many kinds of weird, interesting, and unique animations, but the way in particular that the skater collapses, the way he looks, the way he's made, the fragility of it all, was that difficult to design? Especially the way the camera spins at the end. It just feels so full and complete. I'm curious what that process was like of making this glass skater who feels like glass when you play as him.
I would say he was put in like pretty early on. Like I knew that, yeah, the player's going to be made of glass. The technical aspect of making it look like glass took a little bit, but it wasn't like super, super crazy. I created like a pretty good glass shader that just kind of refracts like the background. Movements of like the camera and stuff. The hard part is actually just getting it to follow the player in a way that's the game is easy enough.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the big problems is if you watch a skate video, which I wanted to base the sort of visuals on, the camera is just like right next to the board. It's just like
Gotcha.
Yeah.
2 inches
Yes.
away, and it's like a giant fisheye lens, and it looks really cool. But from a gameplay perspective, you cannot see what is going on. Like
Right.
a lot of early prototypes, some of the biggest feedback from playtesters is just like, I can't properly judge like distance, and it's really hard to
Mm-hmm.
see obstacles coming up. In real life skate filming, they like that because then stair sets and obstacles, they look much, much bigger when the camera is so close to like the objects. And then the skateboard looks like it's going so much faster. So
Mm-hmm.
you really want to film like that because then it makes everything look really epic. However, in a video game, it's really hard to see things in the distance and then like everything's warped and stuff. So it was really hard to get that like in the midpoint in terms of just like it still looks good, it still looks like a skate video, but also it's still playable in terms of being able to judge gaps and distances and things like that. That was probably the hardest part in terms of the gameplay for the camera and stuff. The rolling of the camera is actually incredibly, incredibly simple. All that happens is that the camera turns into a physics object, and
Mm.
that's just like
That makes
built
sense.
into Unity, right? So that
Yeah.
was
Nice.
not hard at all. That was more of a design decision. I think I saw once in a skate video, like the skater just like kicked the camera and then the camera went rolling. I was like, oh, that's cool. But then actually, when you're like real skateboarding, like you as the skateboarder, when you fall and then you roll out of a fall, like if you just think of like where your actual eyes, like your body, when you're doing a roll on the ground, you're actually seeing like the world roll around. So it's kind of also like a simulation of that, where it's just like in real life, your vision is actually rolling all around like that. It was just kind of like came from that, and it was a happy accident that it just kind of worked. I was actually really scared that people would not like it. That's why there's an option to turn it off, but
Sure.
Nice.
definitely a cool feature.
Suits the vision.
Yeah.
We did mention how Tony Hawk is in many ways an inaccurate depiction of skateboarding. One of those ways, it's how easily you get back up after just completely eating shit and going face first into pavement. Was the skater made out of glass so that you could really kind of make up for past video game sins and remind you that if you fall, you could break something?
Yeah, I would say that like because a lot of other of these extreme sports games, it makes it feel inconsequential. Like I
Yeah.
don't feel any like it sucks to lose your combo in Tony Hawk. Like you're just like, oh man, I lost my combo and then I gotta wait for him to get up. The difference is like when you're actually standing on a skateboard and you're like kind of going at like, 10 miles an hour and then you're just
Yeah.
like, I'm going to die, and you're just like terrified.
You're aware of every pothole.
Exactly. That's like something that every skater has gone through no matter what, just like the
Yeah.
fear. So I wanted to just throw that in your face of just like, yeah, you're made of glass and this is how it feels to ride this thing.
Speaking of skate video vibes,
Hmm.
something that really contributes to the feeling of this game is the music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How did you go about putting the soundtrack together and collaborating with both artists that you did?
So with John Fio, I actually worked with him for my previous game, this game called Zarvat that I shipped on Nintendo Switch, and he was one of
Mm.
the main composers for that game. I wanted to work with him again, and then at the time, actually right before I started working on Skate Story, I was listening a lot to this band, and I would listen to them while skateboarding. I just really, really liked them. This band, Blood Cultures. I just found them on Bandcamp and then I just emailed them off the Bandcamp thing because I saw that they were like in New Jersey or something, like on the Bandcamp thing. And I was like, hey,
Oh,
like,
nice.
do you want to like work on my next game thing? And then I just met up with them at like a coffee shop locally. And then they were like, yeah, sure, let's work together. That was actually really cool. They were just down to do it.
That's so rad.
Well, and to the same extent of kind of you working with production for Devolver Digital, what was the kind of collaborative process of putting together the soundtrack with both Blood Cultures and with John Fio in terms of what you were looking for, or was it just a little bit of they came up with some great stuff and you went a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and off we go?
I kind of knew what I wanted, and that's why I was working with these people. Blood cultures, I was just kind of like, yeah, like just go wild. We worked really asynchronously. I was not hovering over their shoulders at all. There were like a couple years in which they weren't really doing anything, and they would ask me for like references, and then I would be like, well, here's some random videos, and then they would ask me all these questions of like, okay, but like, what's this and this, and I'm like, I don't know, like, I cannot answer that. So sometimes it felt like we were in like gridlock. We were both trying to mine each other for inspiration, where they were like, well, I want to see visuals. And I'm like, well, I want to hear audio. Eventually, we just made stuff. And then in the last year or two, I rearranged like all the songs and just like
Mm.
placed them. I like changed a lot of the story and things and a lot of the environments. I like looped a lot of the tracks and spliced them all up to really kind of mesh them in together. That was like a huge undertaking. I knew that these composers were really good. They pretty much just saw like the gifs that I was putting online, and then they were making music based on that. And then I would sort of take inspiration from that and change the game a bit to adapt it to the music. It was this kind of like asynchronous feedback loop.
So I listened to both albums, but the Blood Cultures album specifically, I've been obsessed with. I think there's something about that style of indie pop that really resonates with me. You have two soundtracks. One is more for like the hub areas and more instrumental, and then one's more for like the boss battles and the event moments and like is more high octane.
Hmm.
Not a lot of video game soundtracks split that way between two different artists. So it's really cool that you kind of let them exist in their own worlds and even change the game to fit it. I mean, the punch that the Blood Cultures album has is kind of incredible and feels very skatery, even though I'm not a skater and I know the culture on the periphery. But knowing that you customize some of the game to fit that vibe of those tracks, especially for like the hallway segments when you're doing the more actiony stuff, really comes through. It feels very symbiotic when playing the game. And so it's
Hmm.
really interesting to hear that. having the two different artists, is it just because you wanted to work with two artists, or did you always have that divide in your mind that like the action segments would be one composer and then the more environmental narrative stuff would be another composer?
I don't think I was like married to like having two artists. I think
Mm-hmm.
first of all, everyone wanted every band and composer in existence wanted to work with me. When I started posting GIFs, I would get many, many, many requests of just like, "Hey, do you want to use my music? Do you want to use my music? Do you want to use my music?"
Right.
They're cool gifts.
Yes, they are very cool gifts, and I am very grateful for like all this interest. But one of the big things is I really wanted it to feel cohesive. I didn't want it to feel like a mixtape, if that makes
Right.
sense. Like I
Yeah.
think in games like Tony Hawk or EA Skate or take your pick of the litter, it feels more like a radio or like a Spotify playlist, which is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. If it's just like, oh, I'm just jamming out and I want to cruise around. And if you have a lot of music from a lot of
Mhm.
different bands, that could be, I mean, how many songs that we found from Tony Hawk is super amazing, right? But
Right.
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
this game, I wasn't trying to do that. First of all, I can't afford 50 bands worth of music. And then second of all, I felt like as a solo developer, I wanted to kind of pinpoint like one idea better versus scattershotting too much. And then I wanted to really custom tailor it. Working with John was easy because I already worked with him on my previous project. I really liked his style for these kind of ambient tracks. And then Blood
Mm-hmm.
Cultures obviously have these like really great poppy, alternative, electronic, but driving forward forces. But like you can't really put that as a hub track because it's like
Yeah.
Right.
you'll get kind of fatigued.
The amen break at the bagel shop is a bad idea.
Exactly, yeah. So it just naturally works out that way in terms of just like, okay, well, this group is a lot better at this sort of action oriented, like driving forward. And then John is really, really good at this sort of ambient soundscape with like very textural, very atmospheric, something that's not gonna fatigue you out when you're spending, 20, 30 minutes just vibing out to it, right? So it was definitely worked out pretty well. If I had a ton of money, I would probably put in 50 different bands. But for this game, I wanted to keep it almost like this very personal, very segmented and like scored kind of experience.
It's more deliberate and
Yeah.
intentional. It puts to mind for me Sayonara Wild Hearts, which was
Hmm.
another game that has vibes aplenty and a more tight production for music. And what you get isn't a mixtape, you get a concept album,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
Incredible
just
game.
as
Yeah.
cool and yeah, just as fun in a story like this one that is abstract and a little bit of open to interpretation, even as it's strangely explicit. Concept album suits far more, and it allows for locking in and traveling alongside. Like you said, for a long period of time, you just become part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really wanted like the deliberate action and like the scoring aspect of it. I think in today's day and age with every game seems to just be kind of a shuffled amount of things of just like here every person's experience is different. Like with roguelikes and such. I love roguelikes and I love how you
Yeah,
can just play them endlessly and things like that. But I did feel like I really missed just like a shared experience of just like yeah, like this is the level in which that song comes on. Like this is
Yeah.
the
yeah,
boss music for this boss, right? Like
yeah,
that's one of the things I really liked of like, old JRPGs and things of just like, oh my God, like this is the Elite Four boss music.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
music of this area. I really wanted that sort of vibe. I didn't really want like the playlist vibe for this game. Also because it's a linear adventure, I could do that
yeah.
and then have like this sort of like peaks and troughs of just like what the emotional experience of the music and the game is. I'm a big believer of listening to albums the way the artist sort
Yes.
of
Yes.
set out. I don't really ever shuffle. I'm not really like a playlist guy.
Yeah.
I think that's why I resonate with the Blood Cultures album so much. So I'm an album listener. Even bands that like their songs that are you could consider skips on their album, I tend to still listen to them. Like I tend to be a completionist. I'm a playlist person also because I'm a DJ, and so like when I'm making a vibe and I'm curating something, it's a different story. But I think I latched on to specifically the Blood Cultures album, but both albums, because it feels like a pop record, because you had that intent and put it in a specific order, and there's an intention to that order. It feels so cohesive, not just as a game, but as an album. And like, I love that one to one. One of my favorite movie soundtracks is the Scott Pilgrim versus the World soundtrack,
Hmm.
and that album is basically chronological for the movie.
Hmm.
And so like to that, it's like I can listen to it and then remember things that
Yeah.
are
It's like
happening.
you're listening to the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had that exact experience with this game after finishing it and then listening to the soundtrack over and over again. I could remember with both of them, like, oh, that's that moment, and then this, and then that happens, and like the progression of the narrative, and I can kind of relive that experience
Hmm.
as I listen to the album. And that has a lot of strength, and I think that it absolutely conveys it. And everyone I know who's played the game really very much is like, oh yeah, and the album slaps. Like it's never one or the other. You know, some people love a game and then don't think twice about the soundtrack, but I haven't met a person who loved this game and
Hmm.
didn't also love the music. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
so hand in hand.
It's
Yeah.
part of the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the music carries the game a lot. I'll be
No, the
honest.
skateboard carries the. No, it's fine.
I
The
mean,
skateboard carries the
yeah.
skater, but the
And the
music
carries the
carries the
music. Yeah, yeah,
skateboard.
exactly.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
At the beginning of the interview, you said that Tony Hawk was the first PlayStation game you ever had,
Yeah.
but I want to dig a little deeper. What was the first video game console you ever got? And like, what was the first game you really remember playing and loving?
I think the first console I got was a Game Boy Color. And then the very first game I remember playing was probably like 5, 10 seconds of Cruisin' USA at the laundromat. It's like an arcade machine.
Amazing. Do you remember the first game that made you think that, like, oh, wow, people make these and I want to make them now?
Oh yeah, I think it was an indie. It must have been an indie. I usually tell people I started making games because there was this developer online. They're still active. Incorpore. They made Steven Sausage Roll, which is like a incredible game. I actually just got free merch from them.
Oh, my God.
They just
Nice,
sent
that's
them to me.
amazing.
They
That is such a
gave me
cool
a coin.
sticker.
Yeah, Steven Sausage Roll, English country tune,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
inventor of Puzzle Script. So put
Mhm.
the Puzzle Script game engine. That's made by them. But if you go on their site, it's just like a million games. And then maybe like 10 years ago, there were a bunch of games that like were making the rounds in like early
Mhm.
indie wave. I saw that and I was just like, they're very, very basic, right? It's only like a couple minutes of gameplay or something. I mean, it depends on the game. Each of them is like made in like a week. So I saw that. I was just like, oh, if this person is making these in a week, maybe I could make one in like a year, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I got started of just like, oh, I guess maybe a person can make a video game.
In addition to work on your own games, you also work closely with the organization Gumbo as well, the
Yeah.
sort of game developers collective based out of Dumbo in Brooklyn.
Yeah, so it's a really cool co-working space that I've been part of since its inception. I actually came up with the name Gumbo.
Nice.
Nice.
So it's in Dumbo. I was like, oh, and we were just like talking about what to name it. I was just like, oh, we can name it Gumbo. But yeah, it's been around for quite a while. I don't really do anything there. I'm like technically a co-founder because I was there
Mm,
for a lot of like the beginning and I helped set up a lot of the stuff, but I don't help run it at all. Now it's all community run. It's a complete nonprofit. You know, I'm still part of the community and I still have a desk there. It's a great space for game developers around New York or even like visiting people to go and just
mm,
kind of work on their stuff. It's a community essentially, right?
right.
I wish that Gumbo had enough resources that in this world that they could just provide money and housing for for young game developers, but obviously that doesn't work that way. All the members of Gumbo help support it. So we
Mm,
all essentially donate to Gumbo to maintain a membership. It's completely community run. The way we support each other is first of all, having a space is super valuable for a lot of people to have a space outside
yes.
their, little apartment to, bring their big desktop computers and just like go to a place to work where there's, basic office stuff, printer, call booths and coffee and tea and stuff like that. But also just like the community, right? Just knowing other game developers, ambiently knowing what other people are working on. Yeah, like talking with them, asking them for advice or sharing advice. Like all of that
Yeah.
is super, super valuable versus staying at home alone on your computer. That's worth so much, right? And
Yeah.
there's also events and things that help a lot. So there are resources in terms of like there's playtest nights, and we invite some speakers sometimes to like, help share information. There's like a happy hour for networking. Sometimes we try to do these like delegation things. So we partnered with New York State for some events at GDC and at different conventions. There are some opportunities, but it's more just like a really nice community.
It's a makerspace.
Yeah, it's kind of like a makerspace. Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Now, obviously, this is out in the world. People have been playing it. I get the sense that you're not someone who just stops working when they've released something and then they're done and they don't make things. And so, while obviously I'm not expecting you to tell me what's next yet, I'm just curious, have you moved on from Skate Story? Are you working on brainstorming what comes next? Or are you still tinkering in that space? Like, I'm curious where you are on the game dev side of like what your plan is for what comes next.
What is happening with Pigeon's untitled screenplay is what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I've been sort of noodling on is like the next game, which is Pigeon's Untitled Screenplay, which was started as like a game jam where you play as a pigeon in one of the chapters of Skate Story. There's a pigeon in a coffee shop trying to like write a
Yeah.
screenplay, and you have to help the pigeon. This was supposed to be a game jam in which you play as the pigeon locked inside the cafe trying to finish the screenplay. So you kind of go inside the laptop and you're trying to like fix the problems of your screenplay before you get fired. So I'm kind of working on that, but I'm also trying to finish up like this Skate Story content patch. So
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
still some bugs in the game that I want to fix. And then there's also kind of this eternal mode.
Mm.
So if you imagine sort of like being able to skate through more essentially an infinite variation of the
Mm.
environments within the game. So that's something that's been requested of just more skating.
Well, people do like roguelikes, so.
That's true,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it must be satisfying to know that people are requesting stuff and asking for stuff. Clearly, there's a connection there that's strong to the game, and
Mhm.
clearly, it's made waves with folks. If they're like, "We want this thing," or we're looking for this, can you do that?" Right? Like, the silence can be deafening. So knowing that people are like asking for stuff must be satisfying to know that the game has resonated with people and they want more.
Yeah, no, it's good for sure.
I think that what you've made here is pretty special, and it's kind of unbelievable that there are not a million games like this. Like, this is the only skateboard action adventure game. There are a few platformers and stuff, but like, there's something truly unique about this game, its world, and the kind of design it has. And so, I mean, you've made a fan out of me. I will buy whatever you make going forward
Well,
because
thank
I
you.
just loved this so much. What is something that you're enjoying right now? If you have time to play games, are there any games that you're really into, or even like just genres that you've been exploring that you're really into? We mentioned roguelikes earlier. Like, are there any games that come to mind right now that have really been resonating with you?
Well, yesterday I just played Big Walk that just came out.
Yes,
Nice.
it's so fun.
Big walking.
Yeah, Big Walkin'. So that is an incredible game, obviously. Super, super fun. And then right before that, I finished playing Little Kitty Big City, which
Oh, hell
Oh,
yeah!
was sort of
nice.
supposed to be a inspiration for my Pigeons Entitled screenplay game. So,
Okay.
but then I was having just a lot of fun, so I just kind of kept going and
Just kept playing.
yeah,
Always a
kept
good sign.
collecting all the hats and everything there. So there's a lot of hats now that I'm putting into Pigeon's screenplay.
Pigeons need hats.
I mean,
Yeah,
we love
Everything.
hats. Who doesn't
We
love
love
it's
hats?
I love
very
hats.
satisfying to collect hats in that game. There's so many of them, and you put them on, and yeah, you like go to the vending machines and you like bat around this long. Yeah, so um, that's a great game.
So, a while ago, someone asked me for a gaming hot take
hmm
at a convention, and I said gaming lost something when we got rid of big head mode. And like a sense of whimsy.
Oh yeah, big head
In
mode.
the world of polygonal graphics, we can do just like goofy things. Why aren't we doing them? I think it's kind like big head mode has been subsumed into hats.
Yeah,
Like
everything has hats now.
it's
Everything is
not
hats.
just
Yeah.
not just outfits for your character. Oh, they can be wearing the baguette outfit in the heart-wrenching cutscene in Expedition 33. No, it doesn't matter how the model looks. put a big top hat on it. Give it an Easter bonnet. It's wearing just put a hat on it. It's great.
Yeah.
This is whimsy.
Well, this was wonderful, Sam. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate it. Before we go, tell folks where they can find you online and connect with you, and of course, find and buy Skate Story.
Yeah, you can find Skate Story on PC, Mac, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch 2. I'm sure if you just Google it, you can just kind of find that. And then my name is right under it. So that's where you can find me, right next to the game.
It's good SEO. God damn.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
Amazing. Well, at this point, listener, we put it to you. Have you played Skate Story? Is this your first time hearing about it? If it is, are you interested in playing it now? What sort of strange adventures do you want a skateboarding game to have? What other extreme sport should go literally through hell and back to tell a story and to take us to a strange place? We want to know. Reach out to us. There's so many great ways to get in touch with us. We are Fun and Games Pod across all social media that we are currently active upon, which as of this episode is Blue Sky, Instagram, and Tumblr. You can email us at funandgamespod@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of this episode, what you thought of previous episodes, what you'd like us to talk about, and who you'd like us to talk with in future episodes. If you have a really cool skate deck, even if you don't actually skate on it, send us pictures of it.
Yeah.
Skate decks are so effing cool, and especially if you put stickers on it, there is such a strange adult problem of I have cool stickers and I don't know where to put them. I've covered my water bottle, I've covered my laptop. Put them on your skate deck. If you don't have a skate deck, get a skate deck. Put stickers on it. You don't have to ride it. Display it. Send us pictures of it. Yes, I'm asking you to do this. I'm also asking you to check out certainpov.com, where you can not only find other fantastic Certain POV podcasts on our network, but also a permanent invite link to our Discord server, where a lot of these topics begin and conversations continue, where we talk about the games we're playing, log about the games we've beaten, and where we will post pictures of our skate decks, should we have skate decks to share. If you like what Matt and I are doing and want to help support us and have the means and desire to do so, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/funandgamespod. There is a free tier, so you don't have to pledge any money to get access to our RSS feed of all of our episodes, side quests and otherwise, to take part in the polls for what our next console retrospective is going to be, or to just get a one-stop shop of all the things Matt and I are working on. But those that are supporting at higher tiers are helping us to maintain server space and to help us out when we go to conventions to cover things. We'll be going to PAX West soon, and the support from you on Patreon is instrumental in that. And if you do pledge any amount of money, you get episodes as soon as I'm done editing them and uploading them, whether that is a day before or a week before, usually somewhere in between. But we also want to shout out those on the high scoreboard. Today, the high scoreboard is Alex Lavelle, Case Aiken, Daniel Nyden, Sean Bowen, Film It Yourself, Dave Jackson, Tales from the Backlog, Alejandro Alves, Curly Bright, Chris Copleen, and Yorkie Duval. Thank you so much for your support. Please enter your initials. You'll have to sign the contract first, and then find and consume the letters themselves. But once you've entered your initials, I'll release you. Don't worry about it.
Don't trust them. Don't do it. It's a trap.
Enter your initials.
As Jen mentioned, also, we will be at PAX West. By the time you hear this episode, it'll just be a week away. We're going to be walking the show floor, interviewing game devs. It's going to be a good time. And I am also going to be on 2 panels. And I wanted to give those panels a quick shout out. The first one is on Friday. It's in the Frog Theater. It is Jacob McCourt's video game trivia. Jen and I will both be on that panel. Very excited. We're competing together as a team. And by that, I mean Jen's going to know all the answers and I'm going to ride their coattails because I'm useless.
You provide a certain je ne sais quoi.
Exactly. And so that's on the Friday at 7:30. And then at, I believe, 9 o'clock on Sunday, video game character fishbowl, the game, which is basically charades with video game characters. Friend of the show, Matt Kroll, who does extra credits and extra history, is running that. Jenna Stieber, who's a good friend of the show, also on that panel, and myself as well, and a bunch of other cool folks. So go check that out as well. Mark those in your calendar if you would like to come see us in the flesh. Another thing you can do for free is rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. It helps us grow this incredible community and is the best way you can help a podcast without paying $1.
And whether you're working on your ollies, your pop shove-its, your goofy stance, or if this is your first episode of Fun and Games, thank you so much for being here. We couldn't do this without you. This is a conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Jen Moonen.
And I'm at AK Stormageddon.
And happy gaming.
Do you have a comic book you just can't stop thinking about? One that stuck with you years later? On Trade School, guest hosts get the mic to talk about a graphic novel that changed the way they see the world, or just made them fall in love with comics all over again. In just 5 to 15 minutes, you'll hear stories about the stories that real people love the most. Trade School, a short-form ongoing series about the comic book trade paperbacks we love and why we love them. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.